time for change. Of course, when is it not time for change with me? Um, in my life, as you know, I follow a spiral path, which is about constantly moving through the cycles of change and knowing where I am in that process. And so, one of the changes that I want to talk to the congregations about today is about our training program. So, there's lots of good and interesting things happening, but I'm going to tell you basically about the things that will pertain to you as congregation leaders. So, for any of you who are congregation leaders who are not actually teaching SHIP or SHIP equivalent, this won't necessarily affect you. But for people who are doing SHIP and who are teaching the shamanic healing initiatory processes and taking students through that process, that was Anubis, my dog, clumping on the floor over here. How I feel sometimes after doing all this work. But anyway, I want to go over some of the changes so they're clear. And so sometimes when we get it in writing, we can read that in a different way. And so I'm going to go over the solid changes that are solid, at least at this moment. So the first thing I want to address, just right off the bat, is that those of you who already have SHIPs in process, so they've already started, you're already in progress with your SHIP program. So you've already had this spiral, or you've already, into the shadow, or wherever it is that you are. And you've told your students that they need to go through one round of SHIP, and that if they're going to become breathwork facilitators, they're going to need to go through another round of SHIP, and then they're going to come out to Venus Rising and do a week-long of skills training out to Venus Rising, what I call the home team, or Venus Rising Central, or the core team, however you want to look at that. But really that means coming and being with myself and my core staff. And that has been the training for a while. And that's been a good model that has worked really well. And things are changing. Things are accelerated, in case you haven't noticed. I'm guessing that all of you, just by the nature of who it is that you are, that you have noticed, that you've noticed with your own students that there's an acceleration. And so the real core teachings of SHIP are still essential as far as I'm concerned. That hasn't changed. And yet the depth of those initiations, I believe, can be taken a little bit quicker these days. And I'm going to give you an example. Many of you who were around and remember when Reiki first came out on the scene, I'm thinking it was about 30 or 35 years ago. It used to be a whole week of teaching of the first level, sometimes 2 weeks of teaching of the first level. And then you had to wait X amount of weeks before you could do the second one. And then there was that training. And then before you could become a master, there was several months you had to wait and all of that. And probably most of you know, and probably a lot of you have gone out and gotten your Reiki certifications, sometimes the whole thing in one weekend. And that's happening all over the world. And I've met people who received their Reiki training that way, and I can't tell the difference between them and the people who did it the other way. So the good news is that the zeitgeist, or the time that we live in, or the morphogenic field, is resonating. It's kind of like two tuning forks. You can ring one tuning fork, and if it's resonating to the tuning fork across the living room, the other one will start ringing too. And so that's what's happening. The morphogenic field is speeding up. We're coming into more and more fields of consciousness. So we're beginning to resonate to the frequencies that are there. So it's really, truly, this is not just a cliche, it is really, truly speeding up the cycles of change within each of us. And especially some of the congregations that have been around, the longer you've been around doing this work, the more you're really becoming a master of the work. Your field in and of itself begins to help the tuning forks that are coming to you to begin to start ringing and adjusting and tuning quickly and resonating to what it is that you're teaching, and finding the places that it resonates in the world as well. So that's the kind of the prep talk, if you will, the prep and the pep talk of this particular change. But what I want to say to you that all of you who already have people enrolled in your SHIP program and that you have told them that they will go through one round of SHIP, and then if they want to become breathwork practitioners, they'll go through another round. And for most of you, that's looked like going through 1 year and then going through a second year. And then somewhere in that second year, either during or at the end, coming out to Venus Rising, depending on the timing of when we're doing our training, going through your skills training for a week. And that's it. And then if they want to master apprentice, of course, they contact Venus Rising. And some of them have really been getting some kind of preliminary master teaching by, training with a lot of you with your congregations. But Venus Rising still holds that close to our hearts, that if we're going to actually say someone is a master apprentice, it means they've done 4 weeks of master apprenticing with us. So here's what it's going to look like as a change. Remembering that you will be able to take your groups through just the way you have and complete them in that way. But the new dispensation, so to speak, or training, here's what it looks like. People will be able to go through 1 round of SHIP, and that will take them all the way through as a shamanic minister. That's level 1. So 1 round of SHIP, whether you do that in 6 months, whether you do that in a year, whether you take them through in 18 months. I wouldn't advise that you took longer than that, but I wouldn't advise less than 6 months. But 6 months to 18 months, you take them through, and they have gone through 1 round of SHIP, and they are shamanic minister. If they wish to become a shamanic breathwork facilitator, they are going to come through 1 round of facilitator skills. And that is 14 days. Now that's a big change because a lot of your people are used to coming out to us and only being with us 7 days. But this is an important change because Venus Rising is changing how we're doing things. And I'll come back and say more about that and explain more about that in a minute. But they will need to come and do 1 round of facilitator skills for 14 days with myself and my core team here at Venus Rising. There may be other places in the future. For instance, I'm doing this in Bali, so there may be some other places where I'll be doing the facilitator skills, but it will be that extended facilitator skills program. It won't be just 1 week. Also, the skills can be attended. The 2-week skills can be attended prior to completing the shamanic ministers. I'm imagining most people will want to finish the shamanic ministers, but there may be some cases where there's people who want to come on out and get started with their breathwork skills and finish their masters later. So we're not going to put that on a linear path, but they do have to be met. The master apprenticeship needs to be done as 2 rounds of SHIP and 2 rounds of facilitator skills. So what that means is, to be clear, is that Venus Rising has been doing month-longs over the past couple of years. And, and we did it in the past. We didn't do it for a little while, and then we've been doing it again. But we're making some changes for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. It's not relevant to you. But we're making some changes, and Venus Rising, at least for probably the next year, maybe the next 2 years, will not be doing month programs. We will be doing 2 weeks. And the nature of those 2 weeks are going to change a little bit. We feel like that this is going to be a better model. I really feel it will be. Starting in September of this year, that's just actually a few weeks away. I think it's about 7 or 8 weeks away. In September, we are going to offer our first 2-week shamanic breathwork skills training. So that's 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks of skills. And we're really going to focus on all the things that we do, the art, the music, especially body work and process skills. And everyone will be, basically everybody in it will be learning how to do all the skills and how to hold space in that way. In this next year, in May, here at Venus Rising again, and here at the Cove, we will be doing the new SHIP program, which is not 1 week of SHIP, but is 2 full weeks of SHIP. And so, in essence, by coming through Venus Rising's 2 weeks of skills and 2 weeks of SHIP, it will be the equivalent of your groups taking people through for a year of the new program, or if you're going to stay with the old program, taking them through a year and then the second year. Let me go through here. The Master Practitioner, I need to back up and say this. Master Practitioner really has to be done with Venus Rising. And even though people can be practicing with you guys, which I think is great, and really helps them out a lot, and you too, hopefully. But the Master Practitioner Award can only happen by coming to those two weeks. So if they came in the fall and they came back in May, then they would complete their Master Practitioner. If we do a month long again, when that happens, should that happen, then we would, of course, have somebody come for the whole month. But it will be divided up starting this fall as two rounds. The level 4 is the congregation leader. Now, in the past, this has been somewhat different, but because the training has been accelerated and has been condensed somewhat, people complete the training and they are very initiated into the SHIP process. They also, have really good breathwork training skills. And at the same time, sometimes they go back to their home and they're really ready to create a congregation, but maybe they've worked in the field of technology and they don't have any clients, they don't have any students, or maybe they've been a massage practitioner and they do have some people they think would come to their training, but they really need a boost. And so Venus Rising has birthed a new program. I did this with Mariko out in Arizona, out in Sedona last year, and we're getting ready to do this with a couple of congregations in next year, early next year. And we have several new people who are asking about it, so we'll probably birth 3 or 4 new congregations next year. That if you're a brand new congregation leader and you want to teach SHIP and you're not in a position, we could always evaluate that, but you're truly not in position to go and start your own SHIP, then we want you to apply for approval. And then what we would do after that is teach 1 round of SHIP with you, the way I did with Mariko. So I went out there, in essence, 5 times. There might be some other formats that we use depending on the congregation, but right now the standard would be that I would go out 5 times, myself or another approved core team staff member would go out and teach 1 round of SHIP with the person who's starting their congregation. Once you've been completed with that SHIP, after that, you should really be ready to roll. And I can't think of a better way to really learn how to do this. You come here, you do your training, but then to have a master core teacher come out with you from Venus Rising, its core team, and go through that with you, or even perhaps, 3 or 4. Let's say myself and Ruby, maybe Deb Irestone, maybe Nico, maybe Judy Red Hawk, some of the very core team come out and bring their different gifts and talents to you over that period of time and really help you build your community and really help you build your self-confidence that you can do SHIP on your own. So we've realized that some of our congregations have not succeeded because they left here and they were all ready and they were enthusiastic, but they really didn't have the ability to do that. And then some got out there and were doing it and realized they needed and wanted some additional support. So we're really trying to meet the needs of this. And quite frankly, just as a much bigger picture, for all of you out there who've been congregation leaders for a while, should you in the future want to be considered to be someone who can go out and do that, I anticipate that Venus Rising's programs are expanding, that more and more people are going to want to start SHIP congregations, and they we're going to need more and more people who are willing to go out and do that. So that's kind of in the future a little bit, but I don't think it's too far away. So just putting that out there. And I want to say just one other thing here, and that is for those folks who prefer, you for whatever reason prefer that your people come through your program the way you've been doing it, where you have them go through the first year and then the second year, you can still do that. That's the old way of doing it, and you can still do that, and we would recognize that. But it's important for you to know that the new program is going to look different, and that you only need to take them through one round, but it is an extra day. You start on Thursday instead of Friday. So if you have any questions about this, you can write me, you can write Ruby. You might hear from Nico. He actually probably explains it better than any of us. He's more concise and direct. But for me, I feel like I wanted to talk to you directly because I wanted you to remember that Venus Rising from its inception has changed many times to meet the needs of the people. And everything from being 5 days to 7, 8 days to 5, 6 days to month-longs, which is I think started about 7 or 8 years ago, to 2 weeks. It's looked a lot of different ways. And I'm always tuning in to say, what do I think will work best for where we are and for the times we're in and the people we see coming in right now. So we're really trying to fit that. And also, we don't want to upset the apple cart too much for the congregations. We know you get set in your ways too of how it's done. But you just need to know that, and you've been around for a while, that Venus Rising will continually be changing, and that what we're doing now, conceivably in 2 years, may be obsolete completely. Who knows? I hope everybody is so enlightened in the world that in a few years they won't need all this training. It'll be they won't need as much. So that's where it is. We've got job security, as I said before. 7.5 billion people need this work, and let's keep doing it together.